11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms.
Captain, a vessel approaching.
On screen.
We're being hailed.
Every weekend over at GearWebsites.com, our online store, we have free Patch Friday. And that means that every order placed on our store on Fridays is going to include at least one free patch. So that's every order with no coupons, no minimum order, no codes needed. You place the order on Friday, and when it arrives to you, it's going to have at least one free patch. Your support means a lot to us, and financial support is critical. So thanks again to the people who keep us online through purchases at GearWebsites.com. And welcome everybody to our daily gun show. Coming to you very late this evening, but things happen. So went to just rest my bones a little bit before Gizzard's show earlier last night, and woke up in the middle of the night. So we're doing the show in the middle of the night, and the puppy has decided to just go to sleep. So the puppy co-host is essentially useless. You can tell how asleep he is because his tail isn't even curly. Do you know these dogs lose their curl when they're sleeping? So their curl is fake. We all know it. Anyhow, so we're getting into it. Over on the screen over here behind him, we have the we have this Substack up. So we're going to jump into that. Put the puppy cam down here so everybody can monitor that. We record this show live. We do almost all of our stuff live using the StreamYard service, the StreamYard, what do you call it? Streaming software, I guess. And it's a system. And then we broadcast it to YouTube. Actually, I probably should be remembering to broadcast it to Twitter as well. So, boom, now it's being broadcast to Twitter also. Welcome everybody on Twitter. Just woke up or staying up late. So we broadcast it live, but really this is a podcast. It ends up being a podcast. We think of it as an audio thing. And we want to thank all the people that listen to this as a podcast out there. So everybody who's listening, appreciate it. If you're listening live, be part of the show. One of the reasons I record these things live, in addition that I'm too lazy to record this thing and then post it and edit it and all that, is that I appreciate the interactive nature of the internet. Okay, just checking my audio is working. I appreciate this interactive nature of the internet, which really is more fun than the TV used to ever be. It's more useful than a magazine or a newspaper or something like that. So, be part of the show. If you're listening in the future as a podcast or watching this on a video somewhere, then you can also be part of the show just in a sort of a time travel sort of mode. Leave a comment. We're not so fancy that we don't read all the comments. And, be part of the show that way. Otherwise, this is happening at like 3 a.m., 2 a.m., 2:30 a.m. my time, which is that 4 a.m. on the Metric Coast and 1 a.m. on the California coast. So California, they're still out partying, and the people out east, I guess this is when they sleep. So we don't have too many people joining us live tonight, but if you do join us live, feel free to chime in, leave some comments out there. We have a poll going each week. We do have a poll going. I can drag that over in front of here, where we ask, how was this week for 2A? And somebody has already voted. Thank you for that. But we have great week, good week, okay week, or bad week. And if you want, feel free to leave your reasonings, like why you chose that vote. All right, so we do this show each week. I mentioned that we do it live. We post it on the various platforms, but, we're not just here to talk. I'm not trying to get famous. I wouldn't mind being rich, but I'm not trying to be famous. The goal here is the internet works by links. The internet is a bunch of things that are linked together. That's why they call it a net, the internet work. And when you get down to it, that's what makes the internet really work and gives you the best effort for bang for your buck. So what we try to do is take this stuff that happened each week and archive it. We put it down on the description of this video, which we then transfer over to a bunch of different places. As you're looking at the screen here, that's the video that we're watching or we're in right now. But we're going to post this same information over on Patreon. In fact, I think I can just drag this over here and show you that there's our Patreon. We have 212 members. We have a whole bunch of free members, so appreciate the people that are following us over there to pay attention to the stuff. It's sort of a blog. It's where we post a lot of stuff like this, and you can see right off the bat, it just looks a little bit better. Like, you can format it over here a little bit better than we can on YouTube. But Patreon is a way for people to subscribe to what we do. Most of the people subscribe at about $5 a month. In other words, buying us a cup of coffee each month. Speaking of coffee, let me polish this one off. Just a little bit of coffee left. And then a bunch of people, so thank you to all the people that are subscribing at that level. And then a bunch of people buy us lunch once a month, $25 or something like that. And that accumulates. All those subscriptions add up, and that pays for the servers mostly. That's the biggest bill these days. And then some software. The software that we use to run all this stuff, and we just added some software we'll talk about later on today to the calendar. I should probably mute for that. And thanks. The Patreon's subscribers are the people that make it possible for me to spend the time on these projects. So thanks very much for that. They also give us a place to keep a blog going that looks just much better than the YouTube comments. Let me drag that YouTube back over here and just. I can't even put bold. Like, there's nothing I can do except for make a link. There's very little formatting I can do over here on the YouTube side. So anyway, what we're getting at is we write all this stuff down each week. That's the real effort here. And then we post it over there on YouTube. We post it on Patreon. We're also posting it here on Substack, which is what we're going to be following along on the screen today, because of all the places that let me post this stuff. As you can see, this is the best formatting for sure. It's also a blog, social media platform. It's a place that people that read the internet use, sort of like a YouTube, except for reading. So it gives us an audience over here. But in reality, again, the internet is all about these different entities out there that link to different things. And all the stuff we'll talk about today, all the stuff that's of worth of the last week, that's our goal, is to link this stuff out there. So we're linking it on YouTube. We're linking it on Patreon. We're linking it on our newsletter most of the time. We're linking it on Substack. And then we've got our posts out there on other social platforms. So that's really our goal, is to help these projects, help get the word out about them, but also help strengthen them on the internet. And our Patreons help us do that. It's a boring effort, but it's something that we know helps them. So it's something that we put effort into each week. All right, and since we're doing that, we might as well talk about it, right? And it gives us a chance to editorialize it a little bit and keep a focus on the stuff that matters. All right, so that's the preface of the show. Thanks for joining us. Normally, this first section of the show is the 2A news of the week, and maybe we can look back at 2023, but most of my sources that I get that information from each week were kind of dry. They didn't post at all this week because of the holiday, or they didn't post this week pretty much. So I don't have any cheat sheets, and I don't pay that much attention daily. I use cheat sheets at the end of the week to relay the important stuff, filter it down, and give you the important stuff. Nothing was filtered down this week. So we'll move on. We have the Second Amendment stuff that happened each week, and then later on we'll talk about gun stuff. I differentiate the two. I know that it's cool to blend Second Amendment and guns for some reason, but you're right to to move, to have freedom, isn't it's the same as a car. So our Second Amendment, the rights that are protected by the Second Amendment, have nothing to do with guns, because, well, for one thing, it protects all of our arms. So that means knives and karate and swords and lances and things. But with that, regardless, we'll get into the Second Amendment stuff here first, the most critical, important stuff to get the word out about, changing the environment so that we can move on past these debates instead of just strengthening our arguments in the debates. So some of the work that happens towards that each week is done by Brooke Cheney and the Suicide Prevention Saturday Project. So for the last show this year, wait a minute, no, it won't be the last show this year. The second to last show this year, Brooke had on Hillbilly Up, and they talked about some personal stuff that happened, and had a pretty fun show. So Brooke does a show each week where she helps to normalize the conversation about mental health awareness and suicide prevention. Once we look at the amount of people that die from firearms, 2 out of every 3 of those numbers that we hear, 2 out of every 3 are suicide. So the people that are trying to demonize the firearm and our property and our right to own them, and us for even having the interest in owning a firearm, they'll stand on the graves of those victims and say that gun violence kills. So in order to have more effective communication and to be able to have to be more prepared for those conversations, Brooke offers a consistent show. And normalizing mental health is great. We can talk about a broken arm. We can talk about how we stubbed our toe. But if we talk about anxiety or depression, that's not something we talk about. So we can normalize that, and we'd be better off just as a society. Those are some of the root causes of the violence that's out there. So if we can normalize conversations about that stuff, we can remove some of the stuff that creates the tension. So great effort from Brooke each week. It's something that isn't shiny and flashy. It doesn't get a ton of views, and she almost always is the most Second Amendment thing that happens each week. And she's been doing that for quite a while without a lot of accolades. So even more valuable of a resource out there. Another valuable resource is Foss, who does a weekly show, hosts a weekly show on Saturday nights. Tonight, actually, depending on when you're listening to this live. But he does a project that he's on number 13 of, and it's Take a Friend to the Range. So he does just that. He takes one of his friends to the range. He does a quick documentation of it and posts that for people to see and to inspire. And that's how we normalize gun ownership and how we get more people aware. If you get more people shooting, pulling triggers, great. If you get more people that, will be able to defend the rights that the Second Amendment protects in conversations out there in the world, then it's a big score. And all it takes is essentially some recreation, taking some friends, doing what you like to do anyway, and sharing that. So Foss does a great job with that. And he's a regular person doing it. He's not trying to wait until he's famous or has all the time in the world. He just has a channel, relatively low key, and adds this as one of the elements, one of the layers to his channel. So if you've got something going on out there that you're watching, it's super easy to just document. You can do it however, lots of different styles, lots of different ways to do it. And, post a video once in a while, see what happens. You don't have to be the star of the show. You could just talk about the guns or the facility or the reasoning for it. And all of that would help others, would help inspire and help motivate others. And that's really our goal, is to share and to do, right? We share what we've done so that others can get the idea and do. Then they'll share, and it creates the whole momentum, right? That's how you create the movement. All right, so then we get to Forge of Freedom. I'm actually listening to this one as I've been setting up the show. So this is a conversation, or the podcast number 86. So conversation with the guy who wrote the book Origins of American Gun Culture. So this is right up my alley. I'm interested in gun history, but how it affects society, how we're a very gun-centric country, and most people will trivialize that or demean that down to the violence associated with guns or the negative parts of gun ownership, although they'll do that with the free speech that gun ownership provides, and they'll do that taking for granted the environment that guns provide due to deterrence and due to the ultimate freedom that is evidenced when you are given, or when you possess, I shouldn't say given, when you have a lack of restriction from a society, from a government, from a culture. And that's what we have with firearms, and that's scary and difficult for people who come from tyrannical systems of government or systems of society. So when they get here, they have to become accustomed, or they have the opportunity to become accustomed. Some of them do, some of them don't. And then, of course, people that grow up here are either hindered by their upbringing, or they're made aware by their upbringing the ultimate results of that freedom. And, of course, people that have no clue, people that haven't experienced a bunch of people with firearms around them, assume that firearms are a bad thing, and that a group of people with firearms is going to be violent. So anyway, the gun culture is super interesting to me, and this is I'm about half an hour into an hour plus conversation, almost 90-minute conversation with the author. So I'm enjoying that one. Forge of Freedom is a great podcast by Alex Hilly out of Indiana. Comes out every Monday, and I forget the other day, but a couple of times a week. It's quickly becoming one of my more look forward to podcasts with the emphasis on freedom. I like it. Next up is Sisters in Arms. Renee and Carrie Ann did a great show talking about firearm safety and just kind of end of the year wrap up. This is their second season. Did they say second season? So it's episode 27 for them. And really looking forward to what they're able to accomplish going forward. They take the content creation to a whole nother level, doing it at their television studios and making a broadcast worthy production. Really nice. Really nice. And it's effortless. It's really cool to watch people who are, some would say, not professional. I'm going to go ahead and say it's not professional, because it's certainly not amateur. It's well done. They don't rehearse it, and they're not polished, but that makes it real. And it's awesome watching people who are comfortable and able to have a conversation about stuff that some folks either don't bother with, or do in a format that isn't inviting, that isn't approachable. I guess I liked Foster's thing so much that I put it in there twice, so we get credit. He gets credit for 2 posts this week. Well done. What's this one? So the next one is from Professor Yamane, talking about... Oh, you know what? I didn't listen to this. I just posted it because I like to include Professor Yamane's stuff, but this says, quick take on the new Gun Machine podcast from Trace's Alan Stevens. So I don't know what any of this is. I didn't listen to this yet, so you're good. Look, your guess is as good as mine on what that's about. So that was the 2A stuff. This is the week between Christmas and New Year's, so not a lot of 2A stuff happened. A lot of hype, of course. A lot of Sky is Falling and a lot of wrap-ups this week. But moving on to gun-related stuff. Each Sunday, She Fires hosts a chat, and this kind of straddles between gun stuff and Second Amendment focused stuff. She's certainly not a Second Amendment only type of podcast, but she's comfortable jumping into Second Amendment topics and has very freedom oriented what's the word? she's comfortable jumping into those topics or into that realm when she's having her conversations. But it's a weekly conversation for the new gun owner and for people in the community that are following her show. She's on episode 19, so she's creating a bit of a community. So there's going to be not just the people that find her show for the content, but the people that follow her show because it's a live show on the internet. For the content, but right, every once in a while I'm checking it. I don't get it when I'm in the middle of the night like this. You don't get a lot of feedback, but I did notice that Gunmetal Guy is out there. I have to put the puppy down here so people know that I'm not actually like sleep podcasting, that I'm not just asleep and podcasting, but this is actually the little, he's a mushroom burrito. There was an accident. There was this monkey eating a burrito, a mushroom burrito, and then some kind of nuclear accident happened, and they were merged, and now this burrito has the characteristics of the monkey with these little toothpick legs, and the result is he's squishy like a mushroom burrito, but he runs around like a monkey, but he's also exhausted constantly. He's constantly tired. For the people that are following the adventures of the little co-host, I thought he had mercury poisoning last week. He was just super tired. So he's back to normal, running around. He's very fuzzy right now because it's cold in here. He gets fuzzy when it's cold, but I think he's just exhausted. He slept all day, and then we went out of the car for a little while, ran around the van, and he really enjoys going out in the van. So it's exhausted him. He's become exhausted. All right, so thanks, Gunmetal Guy, for joining us in the middle of the night and giving me a chance to update everybody on the puppy co-host. Okay, so I don't think Chief Fires will be too upset if we interrupted her segment with the mushroom burrito. But that's the story of the mushroom burrito. There was a monkey eating a burrito, horrible accident. They got merged together, and now it's a little fat burrito that can run around. All right, so then Chief Fires was talking about... Wait, did I listen to this one? I think I did. So this was holiday stuff. Because this was essentially Christmas Eve. Wait, maybe I didn't listen to that one. No, I can't remember.
Right word. Get all beat up and... Yes. That was on the hit list. That was on the short list.
Oh, I was there. I think I remember. Yeah, I remember. All right, so next up is Foss, I think, sent me this. Pretty good. I think it's like 30 minutes long.
Oh, it's time to cover
21 minutes long. Some channel out there. I don't know what the channel is, but it's this channel that Foss found. There's the movie Red Dawn, which is the best movie ever made, and there's a portion of it. One of the better parts of it is the attention to detail that the movie gave to the Russians in the movie at the time, 1984. Very little was actually known about the Russians, except for, well, very little was known about the Russians except for pictures like this, little grainy black and white and like really blurry pictures all the time. But we knew that they were wearing, the paratroopers, their Spetsnaz, would wear some kinds of camouflage. And the movie wanted to be, as accurate as possible. So they came up with this, what we're calling the Red Dawn camouflage. And it's a version, a duplicate, it's a replication from photographs of Russian camouflage. So it's unique. And it had to be created for the movie. So there's a story to why and how it got created. Then there's the story of the fabric itself that was created. Then the props were made. Now there's fabric and now there's props. And then the movie gets made and the props get used by other movies. So there's the following the props through other movies. And then the props get sold. And then there's following the people who own the actual artifacts from the movies. Then there's the fabric that was left over and how it was used and how it was sold and what it was made into. And then there's the subsequent, because that was a finite resource, there's the subsequent interest and duplicates of the reproduction camo. So duplicates of the Red Dawn camo. There's been four major duplicates of the Red Dawn camo. So this is a pretty interesting video that gets into that tangent, which is pretty awesome because it is a pretty good part of the movie. Super interesting history, and yet another reason that Red Dawn is awesome. Other movies just suck and try to make a bunch of money or make somebody famous that waste everybody's time, usually exploit a bunch of stuff and leave a bunch of shit in their wake, and they could care less. That's why everybody hates Hollywood. Actors just participate in all that, make a shit ton of money, and then look down at everybody for essentially dealing with the repercussions of their garbage that they put out. And Red Dawn stands above all that as being an awesome movie. And this is one element, just one awesome, amazing element of it. So bravo to whoever this channel is. Thanks to Foss for the link. And you're welcome. If you dig anything about any of the stuff I'm just talking about, then you're going to dig that video. Now I somehow screwed up and I don't know how to stop that thing from trying to play. So I probably shouldn't have clicked on that so many times. Then a bunch of people have been talking about Glock passing away. So, it'll be interesting to see what SHOT Show, or what happens with the Glock booth at SHOT Show. They have time to do something, so I'm assuming they'll do something as a memoriam. This time at SHOT Show, he would usually show up. I never did get invited to the Glock party, but I'm guessing the Glock party will be interesting this year, or memorable, right? Otherwise, though, I think a lot of people using it as an opportunity to rip on, their hate of the plastic. So here's what it is. Then we got our friend over at Bullets for Bucks, and awesome. Look at this awesome video about the Weatherby Mark V versus the Havak Pro Hunter 2. Oh man, look at how awesome this video is.
Trigger guard. It is Cerakoted. Comes with.
You really want to go watch these videos. These are really good videos. Then we get some controversy happening. I don't know how many people. I started talking about this last week, I think. But there's this bickering going back and forth between the attorneys for freedom here in Arizona. Marc Victor's been a pro-rights advocate attorney here in Arizona for decades, way before the internet even. Before I was even doing stuff online, I knew about Marc Victor. Let's put it that way. And then he'd show up at gun shows and he would do stuff and he'd let people know, and he would be a kind of attorney that you'd want on your side. And his law firm is here in Arizona. It's in Hawaii. And they offer a alternative to what they call insurance out there. And one of the things that they'll do is talk about the different what they call insurance options. So this was, I don't know, I guess they talked about one of the USCCA's things, and then USCCA said something, and then they said something about them saying something. And now it got up to USCCA calling them liars and having their main guy come out. And now this is an hour response to that. So I don't know if you're watching this or not, but it's interesting. There had been quite a lot of dependence on the ignorance of the situation. A lot of the companies out there assume people aren't going to get into the details, and they profit. They assume people just want to hear what they want to hear and pay the $50 or whatever, $40, $30, whatever, and be done with it. And I think there's going to be a little less of that because of this, but we'll see. We'll find out. Speaking of that, Riding Shotgun with Charlie had Sarah on, who is from the Attorneys for Freedom, because the Attorneys for Freedom is here in Arizona. They're up in Phoenix, and Charlie was out here for the Gun Rights Policy Conference and must have met up with her. And, So that was kind of a coincidence that this whole thing is going on, and then this just came out. So Charlie obviously did these back in September and has been releasing them week by week. So then we got Artak and Daughters did a quick video on a first aid kit he has from Inventor Medical, and pretty good video. A lot of people think about what videos they can make or what they have to contribute or what they're, what they could possibly add to the conversation with all the videos that are already out there. But this is a great example of just going and having a bit of a conversation, having a bit of, adding to the conversation, adding your element to the ongoing conversation, maybe that's the way to say it, and throwing some interesting insights out there. And I don't know, I hear a lot of stuff about first aid kits from people that, I don't know, just pick up whatever first aid kit's in front of them or whoever's paying them to sell a first aid kit or whatever. And most of the time they're garbage first aid kits, because anybody can go to the store at Walgreens and buy garbage and throw it in a bag or a box and call it a first aid kit. Venture Medical spends a little more time putting things in there that are useful, and then leaving out the stuff that isn't useful, and then putting in it in a little bit of a rugged bag. And then they don't try to make it more than it is, but they do a great job of making practical kits that like a paramedic or somebody might actually use, as opposed to something that's got a bunch of safety pins and stuff from back in the old days that nobody's using, or like the garbage bandages that you might use as tape because they're not going to work as a bandage. Anyhow, so then we get the a new channel, fully loaded reviews. Yeah, so the dude from GOA has got another thing going, fully loaded reviews. If you want to check that out, it's gun reviews. Foss, we mentioned earlier, doing the Take a Friend to the Range series, also hosts a Saturday night late night show. So if you're watching this live and you're thinking, I can't get enough of Second Amendment and gun related stuff happening live in the middle of the night, well, guess what? There's something tomorrow night for you as well. So last week was the mouse party. That means tomorrow night will be the overnight, and he's already got one scheduled. In fact, that reminds me, why don't we take a quick second, go over here, let's see if I can make sure the show's working. I'm not getting a lot of feedback. There's a ton of people watching right now, but not a lot of people feedbacking. But let's bust open the show, and then I should have done this first. Okay, let's go back. It's very late night. See how slow my internet is? That's one of the reasons my dog sleeps all the time, because he gets bored waiting for internet sites to open. You're watching this in real time. This is how slow my internet is. It's ridiculous. It's like the 1940s internet. You're watching this in real time. This is how. All right. So now, if this thing. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. If this thing will ever open. So now we'll go find from my subscription list Foss's show. That'll be happening tomorrow. He's already posted it. We got our foul territory just happened. I'm not saying Gizzard put me to sleep. I'm just saying I was extremely tired. And I went to listen to Gizzard's show. And I fell asleep. I'm not saying it's his fault. I'm just saying I fell asleep listening to his show. So this will be the overnight. It'll happen tomorrow night, approximately 20 hours from now. And it'll be with the topic of, will 2024 beat 2023? So what we're going to do is jump back into, we essentially opened up this video's innards. We turned this video that you're watching right now inside out. And we're clicking on the customization tab. And now we're going to go down to the redirect option down here. And we're going to zap Foss's show up in there. Going to click on this, and then we'll click save. And what'll happen now, even though the show is in the process of happening, you will be, at the end of the show, you will be recommended to go over to Foss's show. So you learned a little something there about how to work the internet. Recommending to go over to. Not a lot of other shows will bother to teach you how to work the internet while you're in the middle of the show, but I'm not scared of that. I'll show you. It's easy. All right, so next we'll move on along. Again, there's a challenge out there if you're listening to this live. Say something out there, otherwise you might as well not even be listening live. You might as well be listening to us in the future. We got Gizzard, I just mentioned, does a show every Friday evening, right before this show, where he gets a bunch of people together and they go live for a couple hours. Speaking of that, getting together with a bunch of people, Chris from the 740 is starting up another show called the 740 Show. That'll start, well, it already did start, but it'll be coming up on Thursdays. Digging it. Now, one of the things, it looks like I forgot to highlight this. One of the things that you like to follow each week are a couple of radio shows that happen that are focused on what the Second Amendment protects. So we've got 2A2, well, Toby from Cape Gunworks hosts the Rapid Fire radio show on Wednesdays, but on Tuesdays, he goes for 45 minutes, he goes live with Grace Curley. So Grace Curley is a radio show out of Boston with a pretty big audience, and years ago, Toby started joining her on Tuesdays to talk about guns and Second Amendment type stuff. And since Massachusetts right now is dealing with a shit ton of anti-gun legislation, that's a concern of a lot of people in Massachusetts. So it's a big focus, and Toby's doing a good job of helping get the information out there through these channels. So that's the Tuesday show. Then on Wednesday, they host the regular radio show. So it's an hour of radio show and then a second hour, which is usually a long format conversation with someone they're interviewing. I just noticed there's a railing on top of the building. Can they go up on top of the roof of that place? Now I have a new question to ask Toby next time I talk to him. All right, so that's the radio shows that happen. Now there's also the San Diego Gun Owners host Gun Owners Radio on Sunday evenings out of California. And what happens is they host it live and they stream it to YouTube. And then later on during the week, they delete it. And because I put this show together later in the week, it was already deleted. So you have to listen to that one live. I usually try to post it if I put this show together earlier in the week. I usually have a link to it. Oops. But, a little behind the scenes. I didn't get the link to it this week. There used to be other shows I listened to. I just don't listen to them. They're either gone or I don't listen to them anymore. All right, so then we have the gun calendars. What? Yeah, gun calendars is finally back. So one of our projects, one of the things I've been doing, I don't even know how many years now, maybe 10 years, more than that, is guncalendars.com. I've always had gun calendars. We probably had this one since 2007 or something. But it used to just be kind of basic stuff. I started out putting probably up hunting seasons for Arizona to kind of help my friends out and stuff. But then as my awareness drive has kicked in, I've made it more and more potential, hopefully useful for people trying to keep up with stuff. So there's lots and lots of things over here that have to do with events, history, and going forward to alert people of what's coming. So we updated the 2024 events. I think I have as much as I can in there. So if I know of what I know of and what is available, I have the maximum amount of events listed that are able to be listed, let's put it that way. Of everything I'm aware of, every single thing that is available is posted. So it's possible that I don't know of something. Let me know if I'm missing something. But everything that's in my awareness has been double checked and posted over here. So on that main page, you get a calendar. And then when you get into the events of 2024, we've got our rallies. So far, I'm aware of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 rallies But please, if there's more out there, let me know. So we've got a rally in Virginia each year in January. There's also one in Iowa in January. Then Arizona's is in February. New Hampshire has a tentative date of one in March. And then Illinois' iGold is in April. And I believe there's going to be one in Missouri as well in April. But if somebody's aware of a rally out there, let me know. There's unfortunately a shit ton of new gun laws starting in 2024, so we made a list of those and posted them over here so you can check those out. But mainly, unless they're going to affect you, this is just to be aware of the amount of crap that's coming down for some folks. There's a lot of training events that happen in 2024. We got the Ambassador Academy coming up. Girl in a Guns National Conference should be 1,000 ladies this year, the largest ever. The Mingle happens in May. Train and Learn happens in May as well. The Legally Armed in Detroit's Rick Ector's project. This will be the 13th year. He's aiming for 1,000 ladies. Wait, did he say 1,000? I think he did. That'll happen in July, usually the end of July. Then AmCon, if it's still happening, usually happens the Friday before the Gun Rights Policy Conference. We've got our community events that happen pretty much each year. Dragon's Man's will open for the season. We got the NRA meeting coming up in May. The NAGA's second annual summit will be in Dallas in July. Gun Rights Policy Conference is going to San Diego, California this year in September. And then the Liberal Gun Club looks like they're hosting their annual meeting in October in Vegas again. Some shooting events, large shoots that people attend that are open to the public at least, are Kalash Bash happening in April. The Gun Makers Match, homemade and 3D printed guns, comes up in April for the 4th time. We've got June is Thunder on the Prairie. I haven't been told when yet specifically. Oklahoma's Full Auto Shoot is also in June. Then you've got Operation Octane, which didn't happen last year, but is set to happen in August of this year. I gotta drink some coffee. Cape Gun Works does the shooting half of the Veterans Top Shot Invitational. There's also a golf tournament that'll happen in the spring. Dragon Mans will have their machine gun shoot. And then Big Sandy happens twice a year still, March and October. There's industry events coming up for folks that are participating in the industry. The Army-Navy Military Expo happens each year right before SHOT Show. Then SHOT Show's coming up in January. The open house at Rifle Dynamics. I'll try to find out more open houses that are happening, that are open to the public for people that are attending SHOT. But if you want to go hang out with the folks from Rifle Dynamics, they'll have an open house for 3 hours on Wednesday evening. They're right by the airport. POMA has their annual conference coming up in May. Outdoor Retailer has 2 events happening, one in June and one in November, both in Salt Lake City. TriggerCon is happening again. The National Association of Sporting Goods Wholesalers has their expo in Missouri again in October. Are we done? No, because we still have the hunting stuff. Now, I don't have all the hunting stuff ones in here. I'm not that big a hunter, but we got the National Wild Turkey Federation's convention coming up in February, as well as the Western Hunting and Conservation Expo coming up in February as well. There's the Dallas Safari Club, happens in July or January. There's elk, there's deer, there's duck, so I got a bunch of those to still add. Then we've got some major gun shows. The Great American Outdoor Show starts in February 3rd. It's a 2-week show, or 2.5 weeks. It covers 2 weekends. All right, now I have the hiccups. That's a lot of events. I have these out of order, I guess. So the first gun show each year is the Las Vegas Antiques Arms Show that happens in conjunction with SHOT Show. So there's actually 3 events that happen at SHOT Show each year. Most people only cover SHOT Show. We try to cover the Anime as well as the Vegas Gun Show, as well as SHOT Show. Then you've got the Great American Outdoor Show in Pennsylvania. Coming up right after that is Blade Show Texas in Fort Worth. I added some of the cartridge shows because they're awesome. So there's the cartridge show in Ohio in March. Then there's the St. Louis International Cartridge Show, the Slicks, which is the big one, the big ammo collecting show. Then we have Wanamaker's twice a year, once in April, once in November. Then there's the Big Blade Show in June in Georgia. The Great Lakes Cartridge Show, followed by the Williamsport, Pennsylvania Cartridge Show, another cartridge show in Pennsylvania. Then Blade Show West happens in October out here in Salt Lake City, or out west, I guess. And then you've got the Ohio Cartridge Show in October, and the largest gun show besides Wanamaker is the Small Arms Review SAR show, happens the first week in December. Then I have the archive stuff from last year and the year before. And there's stuff before that, but this is the stuff that's listed here. So yeah, I went through and found all the dates. Everything's listed there. We've gone through and started to post stuff. So the things that are like the rallies, they've got their own pages over here as well. We create graphics and info sheets or whatever to post around. And again, that's our Patreons that give me the time to work on this stuff. So thanks for that. And we've got it all done this year still. So cool. It sucks when that kind of stuff bleeds over till next year. So there's lots of stuff in the calendar. Looking at the calendar here, all this stuff is set to feed and get posted throughout the year. That's the calendars. The next step would be to get something in print, so we'll be working on that. But until then, we'll be adding this section to the show on a regular basis again. And again, thanks to the people who've been patient with this section missing. This is one of the pieces I like for this show. Since we do it on the regular basis, we are trying to archive the information. To some extent, that could be boring, So this stuff is the stuff that nobody else is giving you, more than likely. The stuff that's our history and the events that are coming up to give you a heads up so that you don't miss out on stuff because nobody told you they're coming. Like lots of people like to gatekeep and not tell you about nothing until after they've been there. We're going to try to give you a heads up as much as possible so that you can participate in stuff as well. Come on, puppy. Quit it. All right, next. Let's dig through some of the stuff that happened this last week that's over on guncalendars.com. Starting on the 23rd, Madam CJ Walker died at 52 years old, and at the time she was the wealthiest self-made woman in America, self-made entrepreneur in 1919. So in 1867 she was born, and then she died in 1919. But December 23rd was her birthday in 1867, and she ended up becoming one of the wealthiest self-made woman at the time of her death. Pretty neat. And that was from hair care products. She made some kind of hair care stuff. Okay, next up is Kalashnikov's the date of his passing in December of 2014. That happened in December, so SHOT Show happened in January. That was an interesting SHOT Show of 2015. People that, were interested in doing so took that year to commemorate his life and his designs. Let's see. Then we have the Garand self-loading rifle patent happened in 1932. So this last week in 1932, Garand patented his rifle. Now, people that don't know, he was a Canadian, and he patented his rifle here in the United States and then just gave it to the United States. So in true Canadian/communist fashion, he just gave the patent to the United States. Pretty cool, pretty selfless. Next up is on December 28th of 1769, Reverend Forsyth was born, and he's the inventor of the percussion cap. Now, he's not from the United States. He's from some other country, Europe or someplace, England, I guess. But I know that guy because of the research for the one deck of cards. But the percussion cap is kind of important. So even though he's Europe, we put him in here. Or we have him in our list of gun inventors. On December 28th, but 1927, so quite a few years later, H.L. Richardson was born. He's the activist who essentially was a California senator who saw that California politicians were attempting to blame handguns for the results of their failed policies and attacked the possession or the ownership of handguns. And this was in California in the 1960s. So Bill Richardson championed the fight against that in, I guess it was 1975. And that became Gun Owners of California. That challenge, that fight, and that victory became Gun Owners of California, which quickly became Gun Owners of America. So H.L. Richardson is the activist who created Gun Owners of California, which became Gun Owners of America. And that's a politician from California. And that happened on December 28th. And, well, we'll find out if, well, I guess they did not say anything about it, but they could have. Next up is Bannerman Castle, one of the coolest places in the country. In 2009, on December 28th, 2.5 of its walls collapsed. And that was bullshit. So there was a fire. There's been 2 major fires. The first one happened while Bannerman was still alive. Wait, was he still alive? I think he was still alive. Wait a minute. First one happened in 1920. He might not have been alive. I don't think I can't remember if he's alive or not. I have to think about it for a minute. But the first one happened when the powder portion of the warehouse blew up. Just accidentally, I guess, blew up, and a bunch of gunpowder blew up and destroyed a good chunk of the castle. Not half, but a third of the castle. And they never rebuilt it. So that was the first time something happened. And then definitely after he passed and after the family had let the whole entire island go to the state, it had been there for a while. And then there's rumors about what happened, but essentially somewhere in the 1960s, the place caught fire. And while it was still a castle, it caught fire. And since he had built the floors and ceilings, the floors of one level or the ceilings of the next level, the floors and ceilings were made out of not railroad ties, but made out of the barges that were used to bring stuff to the island. So he made them out of old barges. I guess the wood was very flammable. So when it caught fire, it really caught fire. And that fire gutted the buildings and made the castle into the gutted castle that we would imagine from seeing it. Most of the time you see it as a gutted out castle. So that's what happened. There was a fire when the island was abandoned, and they just let it burn because it was an abandoned island and it was in the middle of a river, so nobody cared. So they just let it burn, and that ruined the walls. So 40 years later, the walls fell down. So the walls were bad, but they also didn't do anything about it, and they just let rain and winter and everything happen. And something in the decades later, 2.5 of the walls of the place fell down. So the existing walls that are left, they went in and added structure so that the walls won't fall down anymore, or at least to prevent them from falling down some more. They've added some braces and things. So it's sad, and Bannerman Castle is awesome, and our neglect of it just indicates that, our priorities are out of whack, because Bannerman Castle is awesome. All right, so next up is December 29th, so just yesterday, 1845, Texas started the Mexican-American War by deciding they were going to join the United States as our 28th state. Mexico got all pissed and started the Mexican-American War. So we kicked the shit out of Mexico, and now we have Texas. Yeah, that was yesterday, in 1845. It was also December 29th was Battle of Wounded Knee, where everybody knows. Well, maybe not everybody knows, but if you haven't heard the story of Wounded Knee, it's worth understanding our history. Our longest war was the 120-year Indian War. 1890, Wounded Knee. All right, so today, December 30th, we got Gordon Ingram being born back in 1924. That's the guy that created the MAC-10, a bunch of other things, also a suppressor for the MAC-10. Then we have tomorrow, December 31st, John Thompson being born. So the guy who invented the Thompson submachine gun was born in 1860, 30 years before Wounded Knee. Crazy. And then you've got the Privacy Act of 1974 going into effect on December 34th of 1974. That's an important one because that's, I believe, where we get if I understand it correctly, that's where we get the concept that we shouldn't have lists, that our country shouldn't have lists. It was in 1974, I think, that enough people were concerned that what computers could do could be horrible. So they started real quick saying, hey, you know what? Who shouldn't have lists is our government. Based on what bad governments do with lists of us, let's not let them list us. So that was our gun calendar segment of the show. Hopefully it'll be interesting and useful. I definitely have a lot of stuff in there, and I add stuff all the time. So if you've got something that you think is useful or interesting for this segment, let me know. And then not only does it go into this segment, but it goes into my calendar. And then that calendar gets displayed over here on the various websites. And we'll get into more and more of this as time goes on. But thanks again to the Patreons for giving me the time to be able to put into this. I guess also the software, I did upgrade the calendar software. I guess I won't get into that here, but the calendar software is a lot better than it was last month because we upgraded. So Patreons will hear more about that. I guess channel members will hear about that. But thanks for that. I do think that's useful. Being a gun owner is nice. Why are you a gun owner? Like, what's so good about being a gun owner? Why is it important to be a gun owner? Let's learn from our past so that it's not used against us. All right, one of the things I do each week is listen to military interviews. In fact, I listen to them probably before I listen to I definitely listen to a military interview before I listen to any of the Sky is Falling people. But I'll probably listen to a military interview at this point before I'll listen to some kind of gun chatter, especially if it's just general gun talk. I spent too many decades of my life just having conversations about guns, and the only thing difference between now and then is, we might have been talking about stippling or grip texture back in the day, and today everybody just talks about different characteristics. But essentially, it's just conversations about what characteristics we like better. So that's interesting, but it holds my interest nowhere near as much as listening to some of these conversations. As these conversations develop and as the interviewers hone their skills and the people who show up for the interviews understand what the point of these shows are, the conversations get more and more and more intense and effective or useful. So some of these are more better than others, but some of the good ones this week, or some of the ones I listened to this week, are this pilot guy. Listening to pilots is usually pretty good. Mike is really into the planes because he grew up in that area. So this was a fairly personal, kind of a very focused conversation. This was the second, and then over on Combat Story, they have the second part of this guy from JSOC. Really interesting dude. This is a 2-part conversation, so this was the second part, and definitely worth listening to. From just today, Team House didn't have anything last week because it was the holiday, so they just did like a party thing. But this week they had a pre-recorded show, so it wasn't really live. It was a premiere. There was still a live conversation going on, but they had a conversation with Melissa, who was the first team leader for a first female team leader over doing stuff for PSYOP, but working with mostly different spec op teams and missions as the female operator. Super interesting, these conversations with the ladies. I've really changed my mind. I was adamantly against females in combat, and I still am for the most part, but having ladies on the tip of the spear, having females in special operations is actually critical. And listening to their conversations, they're more than able. It's super interesting listening to them. They're able to do things that a dude just can't do. And again, they're hardcore. So listen to some of these conversations is pretty eye-opening. This one was only an hour. She talks pretty quick, and it was kind of pre-recorded, so there wasn't as much interactivity with the live audience and asking questions that can kind of go off on tangents and stuff. I always include Ed's manifesto in with the military stuff, even though he's more of a police guy. But it's kind of similar vein. This is just his year-end conversation, talking about what he's done this year and what he's planning on next year. Ed's a cool dude, and his style and his method of doing these things is just a whole different level. So it's way cooler than watching some of the others, but he talks about stuff that's more interesting than some of the others. Then we get into the stuff that we did this week, and we start off with Pat and Bunker doing a video. He did stuff that showed up that he purchased over at Gear Websites. Thanks for that. Only 4 people, I think, purchased stuff at Gear Websites this week or this month. So there's I guess I won't do it now since it's the middle of the night. We'll do a special. Maybe we'll do a knife show tomorrow, or this weekend, and we'll give the knife away. But there was I didn't do enough promotion for it, I guess. But we were offering anybody who purchased something from our Gear Website store this year. I guess technically there's a couple of days left. I could still put something else. But there's only 4 or 5 people that have purchased stuff from the store this month. So there's a 20% chance that somebody's going to get the Civivi knife. But we're giving away a Civivi knife to anybody that purchases stuff from the store. So if you happen to be listening to this between now and the end of the year, then consider grabbing something from the store. You got pretty good odds you're going to get a Civivi knife as part of the bargain. But anyway, thanks to Pat for posting it. It's always cool to see the stuff gets there in good shape.
Hey guys, Pat.
And it's always, of course, a kind of a free plug for the store. Let people know, what kind of stuff we've got, and people like Pat who are out there, being part of the community. We're definitely going to hook you up when we can. On Saturdays, we do Ask Gun Questions. I guess eventually I'll take Clover off of here. He hasn't showed up in quite a while. But Tony and I get together on Saturdays, and our goal is to answer questions from people that have been around guns for a while. And, not just to offer a different answer, but usually our opinions are a little different than the norm. We're not trying to sell you nothing. We're not in bed with anybody. So, we've used things, we haven't used things, and we just offer advice. To the questions that come up. They come up from anything from your basic question to your specific thing that we may or may not have the answers on. Sometimes we enjoy trying to research or find an answer for you. Or if we don't know it completely, maybe we can point you in the direction of somebody that does. But most of the time we have some idea of the answer, if not 100% of the answer right there for you. And then it's live. So if you want to join us live, you can do that as well. Wow, is that all I posted? I guess this was a week with a lot of stuff going on. With the end of the year, I was doing the calendar and stuff, but I didn't really do too much other stuff posting. I guess I posted some calendar stuff this week. But yeah, my head has been mostly in the calendar. You think about all the stuff that gets posted on this 2024 event thing. Very few of these things are connected to each other. So most of this is going out and trying to find each thing, track it down, make sure it's right, and then, put it in the list, find the next one. And then the big question is, besides the effort, the big decision is what to include in the list, to make the list useful, but not completely too long. Like for gun shows, for example, I could try putting every gun show in there, but then the list would be so long no one could read it. So if you know something that we're missing from the list, or if you've got something you'd like us to add to the calendar events for 2024, let us know. Otherwise, I guess I could drop a link over here for anybody that wants to check it out. But hopefully you can find that when you search on the internets. And you can find the information in our shows. That's what our show is all about, is disseminating this information. All right, well, normally we would say hey to the people that are joining us live, but aside from Gunmetal Guy, nobody's saying anything. So probably people are listening to this while they're sleeping. Let's take a look at the poll before we head out. And it looks like we've got most votes coming in for OK Week. I guess that makes sense. Nothing really happened this week. And then a vote for Bad Week. I'm interested to see why somebody would pick Bad Week. Maybe they're just having a bad day, or they really think something bad happened. Sometimes it's tough because we lose opportunities or we don't take advantage of things that we could have. And I'm always tempted to say things are worse than they are because of that. But on the other hand, if you look at it, that, could have all burned down and it didn't. That makes it seem a little bit more positive. All right, so with that, we will focus back on the sleeping pup who managed to sleep the entire time. I am going to check in with my, what is this thing called? A game camera. Got my first game cam and set it up to record a couple of things while I was gone today. We'll see if we caught anything on it after the show here. But thanks for joining us. Thanks for not saying anything, unless you're a Gunmetal Guy. And then, in which case, thanks for saying stuff. We do appreciate it. Aldo was here earlier, but like I said, I fell asleep listening to Gizzard. I'm not saying it's Gizzard's fault. I'm just saying I fell asleep listening to Gizzard. But Aldo was here and got the shaft, or he got stiffed. Hillbilly Up, also here earlier, got stiffed. Thanks for joining us, though. Krabby Turtle was out here way earlier, also got stiffed. So thanks, y'all, for appreciate y'all dealing with being stiffed earlier. And thanks to Gunmetal Guy for joining us live. If you are listening in the future, then feel free to leave a comment, and you'll actually be part of the show in a crazy time travel type of way. We will post another quick commercial here for our store, reminding you that every order from our store the rest of the year drops in to be included into our Civivi knife giveaway. So you can get a Civivi knife valued at over $29. Have a great 2024. Oh, look, Puppy's waking up for 2024. You're going to get a puppy stretch. That's what it looks like when he wakes up. He'll do an up and down stretch, and then he does this like horizontal stretch. Oh, you got a wiggle too. Oh, now he's going right back to bed. That was just to wake up to stretch, and now he's going back to bed.
Captain, a vessel approaching.
On screen.
We're being hailed.
Every weekend over at gearwebsites.com, our online store, we have free Patch Friday. And that means that every order placed on our store on Fridays is going to include at least one free patch. So that's every order with no coupons, no minimum order, no codes needed. You place the order on Friday, and when it arrives to you, it's going to have at least one free patch. Your support means a lot to us, and financial support is critical. So thanks again to the people who keep us online through purchases at gearwebsites.com.